Hey there, everybody. James here with Korg USA. Thank you all for joining us today. Good crowd out there. Hello, everyone. Let me start by kind of prefacing the reason for today's stream and the topic that we decided on. So it's interesting, every once in a while, somebody will reach out to us and say, hey, I'm in the market for a synthesizer, and I'm honestly not sure which way to go. Do I want analog? Do I want digital? And that's always a great conversation, because I think that with a few questions, you could pretty much figure out very quickly what people are into and which way you can go. Beside the obvious answer of both, because they both do different things and you might want to try it, together. Sometimes we just need to pick. And that's what I wanted to kind of focus on here today. And just very quickly, hello, everybody out there. Joe, what's up? And wow, Empty Vessel from New Zealand. Good morning, I think. So listen, I also want to tie this into two of our, most popular synthesizers, the minlogue XD and the wavestate. Wavestate obviously is a digital synthesizer, and it does a lot of stuff around sound shaping and certainly pattern creation and pattern exploration with the Wave Sequencer 2.0. But for the purposes of this, I've stripped that out. So we're not going to be doing any wave sequencing stuff today. I want to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of sound and how we approach it and how we decide on which way we want to go. And then over here, I have the minlogue XD. And the minlogue XD, of course, is an analog synthesizer. In all fairness, it's a hybrid because it does also have the digital oscillator, when I'm not using the digital oscillator today either. I'm just stripping it down to just the two analog oscillators. So that's where we're going to be going. So the first top overarching question is what do I want to use? Do I want to use analog, or do I want to use digital? And then from there, tying it into two of our products, well, would I go for a wavestate or would I go for a minlogue XD? And hello to South Africa. Wow. Texas, France, Italy, Norway. We have a very, very multinational base today. So hello to everybody, and thank you sincerely for joining us here at Korg USA. We love you all. Thank you for participating always. We welcome all your questions. We have two people on to help with questions today. We have our product support department, one gentleman from there, and we also have Kyle Von Stripe, who's one of our new product specialists. They're up in the house here. So with that being said, they'll answer questions that I don't catch, but if you want to ask me anything specifically, hello, Romania, I'm right here, and that's what we're here to do. So the first question, I could probably ask somebody when they're not sure which way they want to go is, well, what do you want? Do you want something that's going to be very kind of out there, sound exploratory, or do you need a piano? And it's really an interesting thing because at the end of the day, if you're looking for piano type sounds and, acoustic basses and things like that, you're definitely going for a digital synthesizer. And the reason for that is that a digital synthesizer is based off of PCM, post-cult modulation, sometimes called a rompler, and that gets you those kinds of sounds very, very quickly. Joyzy in the house. What's up? Poland, Portugal. Wow. I'm from Macedonia. Wow. All over the place today. So that's that. So what I've done is I've gone into the sample mode here, and that allows you to go straight down, stripping it out of the performances, which is multi-stacking of patches. And what is a patch made of? We have our PCM. So here you'll see this really, really long list of PCM sounds, wavetable basically. So here's a piano, and you can scroll through and you've got real instruments that have been sampled. Now, that's very cool. It's very expansive. And at the end of the day, you can modulate that sound to some degree, but you are starting with a sample of an actual thing. So the amount of editability that you have there is going to be still fun to explore, but a little more finite. Now, on an analog synthesizer, it's much more geared to, besides being analog, which is, let's face it, where it all started. When synthesizers first came out, they were all analog. Digital came out as sort of an alternative to analog for getting those kinds of sounds. Prior to digital existing, hello, Argentina. Prior to digital existing, people were trying to get those kinds of sounds out of analog instruments. And sure, I can go in here and try to create a piano. I could turn the filter way up and pick the right waveform here and set the resonance way, way up. And then just try to get something that sort of resembles the attack of a piano. Put another oscillator in there, kind of offset it. And that was the extent of getting a real sound, right? So, but that's cool though, because what analog does compared to digital is lets you go beyond. So you've got all this stuff right on the panel that lets you instantly explore sound creation in a very, very fast, very instantaneous way. So here, yeah, basically at the basic level, and please, that's not to take away from anything else that wavestate does. I mean, digital has obviously come a very long way. And with wave sequencing and the amount of PCM that's in here, there's tons and tons to explore. But it's also made out to basically pick up the sound. You know, if you want to change out the sounds inside of Performance, you're basically picking the programs here and exploring more so than with here, where you also have presets, but you got the opportunity to kind of tweak out and do what you want with them. So, for example, the way that an analog synthesizer, and like this particular one, is laid out is completely left to right signal flow. And you could basically pick your waveform. So where here you're picking a PCM, a multi-sample, and there's another way to say it, actually, it's the most correct way to say it. I'm looking at that on the screen right now. You're starting with a true oscillator, an analog oscillator. And that analog oscillator is right here. So let me just turn this up. So you've got your oscillator. You have another oscillator that you can blend in very easily, which I will do. But you have your waveform. So here's the sawtooth. Try the triangle and the square. And I have a little bit of sustain and decay, which is your envelope. So here I can start to blend it up. I can combine any combination of these three oscillators here to make new timbres instantly. I could pitch and detune very easily with the knobs, not with a menu. If there is a knob there, yes, sometimes, but oftentimes you also do this with a menu in a digital synth. Here you've got the dedicated pitch knobs, shaping. Everything is very hands-on, very top panel. Awesome. I almost got like an organ there. Again, not a sample of an organ, just an analog recreation of an organ. So as I flip through these, you can see they're going to change the timbre of the sound. I can also blend the octaves very quickly. Detune a little bit. And then over here, I've got my analog filter. And, you know, when you compare an analog filter, you know, obviously analog has this certain warmth to it, this certain even imperfection, you could say, because it's analog. And it's just a really nice, meaty, weighty finish. You could also drive that filter here. So here the sound's starting to take different forms already. I could do things with the decay and release, make it ring out a little bit. I can make it more of like a string. If you were comparing this to, say, any kind of a workstation, you know, you need to dive pretty deep into the menus to go into the ADSR or the envelope. Here, it's all very surface level. And of course, that gets you into all sorts of beautiful places, like some of these presets. And on and on. Get some nice pads going. So there's that. Now here, I mean, you do have programs you could obviously pick from, just like I did over here. I'm still in the multi-sample mode. I can go in, and the wavestate does actually borrow a little bit of that top panel controllability from analog, which is nice. And not to confuse, it's one of those synthesizers that actually does give you some additional editable capability right on the panel. So here you are going to be picking a multi-sample. So in this particular case, I mean, I could just do acoustic piano. Try hard not to hit that camera. And then once you're there, you do have some level of that. Now here, the filter, it's not an analog filter, it's a digital filter. And in this particular case with the wavestate, what makes it very cool and sometimes a little bit heads and shoulders above other digital synthesizers are out there, we've got a multi-model filter here. So you have Poly 6 filter, which has a different characteristic than the MS-20 filter. We have the high pass filter. We have a 4-pole band pass, so on and so forth. And that's also one of the benefits of digital, is that you can possibly have, like in our products, we'd like to put multiple filters there so you can play around and hear how they change things. Usually on an analog product, you have one, maybe, 2 filters kind of a thing. But I can go in and I can still play around pretty well with that. So here, same thing, the amp, I can make a tail different. Right. And I think I'm still, and you can see that on the screen there as well. You get a visual representation of what's happening with your envelopes. You could actually see the signal. So if I brought this up, you can see that it'll take a little longer to ramp up. And what does that turn into? I mean, that eventually turns into very, very polished stuff. Like, for example, hello, let me back in. Hi, let me back in.
You dropped off.
Yeah, Google just quit on me.
Okay.
I'm telling her to let me back. Hello there. Hi, am I back up? I think I'm back up.
Hi, you have reached green.
Okay, so give me a second to reset. Sorry for the interruption there. For some strange reason, Google just completely crashed on me, and we're using StreamYard for our stream today. So got to make sure that that's not happening again. We are back. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey, Mark, thank you so much. Luciano Minetti, one of our other product specialists that's in new here. Thanks. Sorry about the interruption. Again, I'm not sure what happened there. It looks like Google basically just crashed, so I just restarted it. So what I was saying was, what it brings you back to is these great, finished things. Now here, we're also looking at layers, and that happens a lot as well with digital synthesizers. So you can have more than one part happen. So like on our workstations, for example, you can have up to 16 different sounds put together in splits and layers and things like that. Here, the way that the wavestate is set up, which is really cool, because one of the other benefits of digital is that you have a lot more polyphony, in general over analog. So like, for example, here it's 64 stereo voices, which is fantastically huge. And this is a 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer, and also has the 4 voices for the multi-engine as well. So you've got a lot of capability to do a lot of like layering. And here, this is a 3-layer sound, as you can see, the 3 things being used here. And then, of course, you can go in and you could change those. If I go back to the initialized program, and I agree with you. I love both these synthesizers. I think they are both perfectly awesome in their own rights and how we work with them and what kinds of sounds each one is capable of producing. So I am completely with you. It's very interesting to kind of deep dive down and see what is actually making these synths tick and what the workflow is if you're into, creating sounds, exploring sounds. Do you want some more rhythmic? Wow, everything is kind of messing with me today. Oh, we move on. It's the beauty of a live performance. So here's the initialized performance, and then I could just go in right here and I could choose a different program. So now a program is what I just created with that piano. So it's actually a finished product. It has a multi-sample, and then that multi-sample is run through all the effects and filters and the envelopes and everything to create something. So that one sound, that Iceland piano, is right here. You can hear it's a lot more finished. It sounds a lot more the way a piano. Mark. Nice, man. Yeah, I mean, there's so much fun to play with. I mean, I've rarely had the opportunity to go this deep into the wavestate as far as like sound creation, but I'm having so much fun doing it, and it's great to see all these different multi-samples that are available. You got to remember also, like when digital came out, again, it was an alternative to analog for a couple of different reasons. It was for affordability. And it was also, and Korg had come out with a product that was all about that with the Poly 61. That was like a interesting, add-in. And it really gave you a lot of different control. Then basically, I'm losing my train of thought. So my train of thought is that with digital, you basically had also more polyphony out of the gate than analog typically gave you, especially for the same price. Think about what happened when the M1 came out. When the M1 came out, the polyphony that was on that product was pretty much unmatched for anything, certainly in its price range. And what that also allowed people to do was produce more kind of like, I want an acoustic piano. I want drum kits. I want this and that. And that was the beauty of it back then with that workstation, was you could have a drum track 1, bass on 2, synths on 3, piano on 4, guitar on 5. It was an 8-track sequencer. So you do get, you get like more of a polyphony and kind of timbral thing going on for the price with a digital synth. Whereas again, analog circuitry is definitely, a little bit more expensive comparatively. And that's why you end up with like maybe, a few less voices of polyphony. We cover that in the Korg line with different synths. So everything from the monologue, for the US is about $299. And that's 1 voice of analog. And then you have the minilog, which is 4, the minilog XD, which is 4 with the multi-engine. Then you go up to the prologue, and you can see the price kind of goes up with the polyphony, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. Analog is just, it's definitely more to engineer and more to manufacture and everything like that. So that's what you end up getting. So there again, that's the interesting comparison between these. Now, if you're a sound, the interesting thing about analog is that if you're a sound creator, you're going to love working with analog, 100%. If you're new to synthesis in general, you may also really like working with analog, because again, a lot of analog synthesizers do put a lot on the front panel. And they give you a lot of capability to just play around. And you don't even have to do it from an initialized program like I'm doing. You could find something that's close, like this, for example. Like, that's fun. But I want to just change the mix a little bit. resonance. All by just flicking some switches. And the thing is that you don't even technically really have to know what's going on. Like, you can start to learn about that as you work with the synthesizer. We designed minlogue to be very, very user-friendly in this way. So, again, left to right panel. You've got instant control over things like the octave right away, the wave control for any menus or anything like that. It's just all right there for you. You've got a noise generator on the digital filter if you want to add some noise to your sound or not. You can see I'm turning a few knobs. I'm getting some very dramatic differences to that sound that we started with. Now also, because of analog, you've got to be able to work with the voices in different ways. This is something that we definitely pride ourselves on, is voice modes. So right on the top panel as well with analog, you get to choose what your voices are doing, because you want to be able to have a lot of, being told that my vocal's a little low, so I'm going to go down here and raise it a little bit. Okay. So you want to be able to have that control over what those voices are doing. So here we got the polyphonic mode, which will kind of go into duophonic mode if you want it to. What's doing is it's putting those voices into 2 and 2. The 4 voices now are duophonic or 2 voice, and they're stacked on top of each other. That was very classic in the ARP Odyssey, for example. That was a duophonic synthesizer. Yeah, what did my mic change after I dropped off, or is it just low in general? Or is it better now? Love your feedback. So here I'm using unison, and that stacks all 4 notes, and then you can detune those notes. Interestingly, I'm almost close to like a toy piano. Oh, you like the shirt? Yeah. It's got a staff on the back too. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I also got the Korg USA mask, but I'm in my own room here, so. No, that's not the official font. We kind of played around with it. Shh, don't tell anybody. Hey, I made a toy piano. Kind of fun. So you can do that here. Here, you're dealing more with changing out the sounds that are already done. Like I said, you can go in and edit. I want to just be clear. But what you're doing here is you're more choosing the sounds that you want to stack on top of each other. So like, for example, you can hold Shift and turn on another part. You can go to that part, and now I've got that piano, and I can go in and choose another sound to go on top of it. So now I have a piano and kalimba. So 2 realistic instruments that are now stacked on top of each other. Or what else do I have? So that's a 2-layer sound, and you can go up to 4 layers on this particular one. Now, this one's a little weird because there are also analog modeling or like virtual analog, right? So that is to say that if you can sample all these real instruments, why can't you just sample an analog synthesizer? And you can, and it's done. So there are a bunch of PCMs in here that are basically samples of some analog stuff. But to be clear, it's not going to be quite like analog. You know, at some point you are still starting with a sample as opposed to an actual waveform. And, you know, you'll be able to run that through the filter and everything else like that. But it is going to have a different quality, a little different, not worse or better, but just a little different. You know, at the end of the day, analog is analog. And that is like, you know, I don't want to get into like a whole philosophical thing, but like, you know, there are a lot of people out there who feel like, you know, records are better than CDs. You know, there's some people who feel like CDs are better than records. You know, it's almost that kind of a discussion. You know, at the end of the day, analog has been known to have more, you know, sometimes more warm characteristics, and digital has come a long way. So from original digital to now, like the digital stuff that's out there now is so capable, so wonderful, that it really isn't even about that so much. It's really about which way do you want to work and what kinds of sounds are you after. So back to the products themselves and not so much the philosophy of analog and digital. With a minlogue XD, you know, because again, they're like in ballpark roughly the same price. I mean, the wavestate's a little bit more. For that, you're going to get 4 voices of polyphony, true analog, 100% analog signal, which is, you know, obviously very sought after for a very, very good reason. It sounds great. It's very robust. You can explore very, very infinitely with the sounds. And then, of course, you have the multi-effects here. This one comes with 3 multi-effects. It also comes with a sequencer, and that lets you sequence lines in. You can also record your knob movements. So if I go to something like this, I'm going to just step in some stuff. Our analog products with sequencers come with the motion sequencer as well. So in this case, I can just go into record. See that track 3 there just captured my cutoff. I don't disagree, Mark. I really don't. You know, we really do like to put a lot into our product. You know, it's something that I like to call like, you know, power to price ratio. And we've always really prided ourselves on packing a lot of musical capability and a lot of power into our synthesizers for the price. And I think these synths both 100% excel at that in different ways. You know, like it's like this is this is analog, and this is what you do with analog. And, you know, again, I got my motion sequencing. And of course, you know, back in the day, analog didn't have presets. Now we do, which is also a really nice feature because you could save everything that you're doing here. That's awesome. Here on the wavestate, now you have a digital synthesizer. It's wave sequencing 2.0. So we've got our wave sequencing technology built in, plus a lot more. There's a lot more that you could do with the wave sequencer. We've covered that certainly in a lot of different live streams and videos and such. The beauty of this is that you can just scroll through all these wonderful performances. And there are so many. I mean, there's the ones that are in the set list mode, but there's so many performances in here. And then some of the instant exploration here is with the wave sequencer. So the things you can do that dramatically change the wave sequence. So this is a completely new way of exploring with a digital synthesizer. All that to say that if you were going to do that with any other kind of sequencer or any other kind of synthesizer, you would have a hard time getting that quick of a result. Actually, you wouldn't be able to get that quick of a result. That's the point with wave sequencing, is that we've brought a lot of that editing that you would have to do to change a sequence up to the surface. And that's what we love to do. We love to put things on the surface of our products and make it so you don't have to dive into menus. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. So with analog, your whole signal flow is right here. You never have to dive into a menu, ever. You can. You can go in and you can change little things about how the joystick, you know, gets affected. You can do little things with the effects. You know, you can get in there and you can see certain things. You can edit up the motion sequencing a little bit. You know, some deeper level stuff is there and available. But the real design philosophy here is to say like, okay, I'm going to turn this synth on, and whether I'm a robust programmer or somebody who just bought their first synthesizer, be it analog or digital, I can get in here and do what I want to do. And then we sort of took that philosophy and we did it with the wavestate as well. I mean, you've got amazing access. And I mentioned this before, not a lot of digital synthesizers have this level of immediate access to shaping the sounds themselves, but here we do. So we do have a panel here that's, so now I'm talking about kind of like similarities. We do have a panel here that gives you the filter, the cutoff, the resonance, the envelope intensity. You do have the envelopes here. You've got filter, amp, pitch, and vector synthesis, which is very, very characteristic of wave state and wave sequencing and everything. And then we have these mod knobs that give you all that control over the wave sequences, and in some cases effects, other things as well. But just by playing with these, you can just look at what's happening. You can actually see it on the screen. So the timing can be changed, the samples that are being called up. And this is another fun thing. While we're talking about uniqueness, there's really no other synthesizer that's analog that also incorporates this open source outside of Korg, that incorporates this multi-engine. And also just this signal flow. So, back in the beginning with minlogue, the engineering team decided that they wanted to do something completely different. And with respect to, reissues and stuff, which we have done ourselves and love, MS-20, Mini, ARP Odyssey, 2600, things like that. We wanted something with a very unique signal flow. And we accomplished that with this and the minlogue before it. And here, what we wanted to do was we wanted to look at a classic synthesis, something that was, very, very powerful, very distinct. When you have PCM or multi-samples and you can cycle those very quickly, that's the beauty of wave sequencing, is that really it's a unique synthesizer and a unique approach to synthesis. There aren't sequencers out there that do that. If you wanted to change PCM, you do it by hand. And at that point, it's not rhythmic. And you're really kind of like limited if you want to have kind of rhythmic stuff like that. So with wave sequencing, what we've done here is we've made it where you can, this cycles through PCM in time. It could be, changed as far as like what the lengths of those are. So you're not like hard set to like 16 steps or 8 steps. And then you can go in and just change the very, very deepest parts of wave sequencing very, very quickly. And then again, if you do want to get in there and edit a little bit, you can. So if you want part A, you can choose the filter in part A. Choose the filter. A lot of fun stuff going on here. Drums, things like that. So I'm sorry I didn't get to see the question come up, but I did see that it was answered. So yeah, with wavestate, you have up to 4 parts, 4 layers as they call them, and you can stack them or you can split them. It's all perfectly customizable. And, you've got 64 stereo voices that gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to stacking up sounds there. And then here, for those of polyphony, it's a 3 oscillator structure, analog oscillator 1 and 2, and then you have your multi-engine as well. So you're not so much stacking in more sounds here. You can do that with products like Prologue, where it's bitimbral, which means you could have 2 different synthesizer sounds put together. And you could sort of split layer or crossfade those. We did that a little bit in the last video. But here you're more stacking the oscillators themselves to create different timbres, and that's what you're doing here. So, you know, timbre 1 is doing this, timbre 2 is doing this. In this particular example, timbre 3 is doing this. And all these sounds are generated basically from a little kick of digital as well sometimes. But even when I turn that down, you can hear these are like the real. So again, to recap, the question you want to ask if you're looking at analog or digital is, you know, how do I want to work? And what kind of sounds am I after? And just in summary, you know, for everything that we've been talking about over the last 40 minutes or so, it's really comes down to a couple of things. So if you need a ton of polyphony and you just want to get more polyphony for the money, and also if you want to get stuff that's like, you know, samples of actual instruments like pianos and guitars and things like that, you would go for something like a digital synthesizer because that will give you that capability very, very easily. And then with analog, you're really about, you know, starting from the root oscillator, you know, the waveform, you know, whether it be a sawtooth or a square wave, combining those to create unique timbres, like really, really distinct stuff. You know, so you wouldn't really, you could get something that's close to an acoustic guitar, but you're not actually, you know, starting with a sample of an acoustic guitar, so you'll get only so close, but that's not what it's about anyway. It's about really weird out there, you know, really, really breathable type sounds. And that's what analog gives you. You know, tying that into these two products, you know, minlogue XD is going to give you a lot of flexibility with 2 analog oscillators, and then the multi-engine, which is of course user creatable, and also you can buy different oscillators from different companies, and we have a list of those on our site. And then with wavestate, there's a ton of great programs in here, and those programs can be stacked and layered. And then, of course, the wave sequencing was really the magic of this. The wave sequencing is unlike anything else. So they both sound very unique in their own rights. It's just that they use a little bit of a different approach to get there. And that's what I really wanted to try to kind of cover. You know, I hope that that was informative and kind of like, you know, tweaked your interest a little bit as far as like which way you'd want to go. If you were asking that question, or if you just want a little bit of a deeper dive into what the differences are, things like that. I'm just reading a quick comment from Shazib Khan. My Korg Keyword X50 not sound output need. Okay, I'm going to give you something really quick to try. I can't wait for you to do it here, but make sure that the global is on, the local control actually, and that would help. You know, if you're having anything past that not working, you want to speak with the service or the product support department or distributor in your area, and they will get you over to have something looked at, you know, in case, you know, might be something with the output or something like that. Sorry to hear that you're having that issue, but I'm sure it could be fixed relatively quickly. And thank you for that question. X50, another great digital synth, by the way, you know, a little bit classic, but one of my favorites as well. So that's the exploration for today. You know, thank you for checking it out. Once again, I'm James with Korg. I hope to see you on a stream again soon. And also, again, just to reiterate, we have 2 great new specialists here at Korg USA, and you're going to be seeing a lot more of them on live streams as well. We've got Kyle Von Stripe, and we have Luciano Minetti, 2 great new additions to Korg USA, and I am sure you're going to be seeing them very soon. As a matter of fact, you're going to see Kyle next week. Our next week's live stream, we're going to start digging into a little bit of comparisons kind of like these. And for next week, we're going to be looking at the differences and the benefits of each of the Volca beats and the Volca drums. Another question that comes up very commonly here at Korg, you know, which one do I get? Do I get both? What's the differences between the two? It's like there's 2 drums in the line, or maybe even 3 if you count the kick, or maybe even 4 if you count the sample. But for the actual just drum-based stuff, the multi-part drum-based stuff, we're going to do a deep comparison there and take a look at the features and benefits of both the Volca beats and the Volca drums. So I hope you'll join us. Same time, same place, 3 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. Once again, if you have any questions, hit us up. If you're from another country, certainly hit up your support department there and your distributor over there. And this stream, like all streams, will be posted right after I sign off. So, thank you very much, everyone, and I hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay well. And we at Korg look forward to seeing you again very soon.